Hello, my name is Kichul, and I'm a PhD candidate in Professor Inkyu Park's MINT Lab at KAIST, South Korea. I would like to thank you for the opportunity to give our presentation at the IEEE sensors. My today's topic is electronic node system based on ultra-low power, single micro-LED GaN sensor, and deep learning. Let me start my today's presentation. This is the table of contents of my presentation. First is introduction. Traditionally, gas sensors have been used in applications such as chemical leakage and air pollution monitoring. Recently, their use has expanded and they are being used in indoor air quality monitoring, diagnosis of disease through exhaled breath, and crop growth monitoring. As the use of the gas sensor expands, there are new specifications required. Previously, gas sensors were mainly concerned with high accuracy, fast response, so the high power consumption was not a major issue, and they were actually installed and operated only in limited places. However, for more versatility, ubiquitous sensors that operate for a long time need to be developed. Therefore, low power consumption and small size are required for the future gas sensors. There are various types of gas sensor, and semiconductor metal oxide gas sensors, short for SMO sensors, are the most suitable for the aforementioned requirements. The SMO gas sensor uses metal oxide as a gas sensing material. Chemically reactive gas in the air change the thickness of the depletion layer of the metal oxide, and we can detect gas by measuring the resistance change. When energy such as heat or light is applied, hot electrons are generated in the metal oxide, which promotes redox reactions with target gases and increases the sensitivity and response speed. The most widely used method to activate metal oxides is the Joule heating method. But heating at high temperatures consumes a large amount of energy, so previous research has focused on miniaturizing the heaters to reduce power. Micro and nano heaters have been developed, and suspended bridge heater structures were used to reduce heat conduction to the substrate. However, as the heater becomes smaller, fabrication complexity and cost increases, and its mechanical and thermal durability has weakened. Also, SMO sensors have the low selectivity problem. They respond to all gases that have chemical reactivity. Therefore, it is hard to distinguish gases by analyzing the response of a single sensor. To solve this issue, various methods have been proposed, such as functional hybrid materials, catalytic coating, and filtering. However, these methods can only solve specific individual cases, or they may reduce the response of the target gas due to the filter. Another solution to the low selectivity is to use an electronic node system that mimics human olfaction. E-node system utilizes a sensor array that shows different response to each target gas and applies pattern recognition to achieve selective gas detection. As the number of sensors using E-node system increases, the performance improves, but the overall power consumption and volume of the total system also increase. Therefore, it is important to reduce the power consumption and volume of individual sensors. Now, I will explain the gas sensing method that uses photoactivation rather than heating, and tell you about the research our group has conducted so far. Instead of using Joule heating, gas sensing using photoactivation have recently attracted attention. And 3 years ago, our group reported the direct integration of gas sensing materials on top of the micro-LEDs. The distance between the micro-LED and sensing material was only 500 nanometer, and therefore, light energy loss was minimized and ultra-low power gas sensing around 0.1 milliwatt was possible. Since then, our group has continued research on micro-LED sensors and published several journals this year. Before presenting today's topic, I will briefly introduce our development timeline. The paper I will introduce first was published in ACS Nano this year and is about an electronic node system that classifies various gases by using 2 different UV micro-LEDs. The structure of the micro-LED gas sensor is as follows. A 50 micrometer sized micro-LED was fabricated by MEMS fabrication process. And when a forward bias is applied to the P electrode of the LED, UV light is emitted from the bottom to the top and is transmitted to the sensing material above. Gas can be detected by measuring the resistance of the sensor electrode. The size of the sensor chip was only 5 by 5 square millimeters, and there were 4 LEDs in an array on one sensor chip. A porous indium oxide nanofilm was integrated on the fabricated micro-LED sensor, and each surface was coated with silver and gold nanoparticles to create 2 different sensors. Afterwards, gas response data was collected using 2 micro-LED sensors simultaneously. By doing this, gas response data generated by each gas was collected, and after pre-processing the data, deep learning algorithm was applied. This trained model can classify 5 different gases with an accuracy of 99.3% and predict the concentration with an error of 13.8%. The next research I will introduce is the blue micro-LED gas sensor, which is published in the journal Small. Because the crystallinity of the LED's gallium nitride layer that emits blue light is more stable than that of the UV LED, the light energy efficiency was higher, and thanks to this, NO2 gas sensing at the nanowatt level was possible. And in this paper, we verified that the micro-LED maintains the room temperature while emitting light. Now let me present today's main topic. Following previous studies, we thought that the power consumption and size could be greatly reduced by configuring the inner system with just a single sensor, and we began this research. To do so, we developed a technique that derives LED light in the form of random pulses and published it in the journal Life Science and Applications this year. In this study, UV micro-LED was used, and indium oxide coated with gold nanoparticles was deposited on the LED. Rather than using the LED with a constant amount of light, it was used with random pulse as shown in the figure. As the amount of LED light changes, the number of hot electrons generated from the metal oxide changes, and the surface area that can react with the target gas changes. So when the LED is driven with the random pulses, it shows a different, unique transient response depending on what gas is present. As a result, pulse driving can obtain more abundant information than the steady-state driving during the same period of time. The proposed concept was proven through the real experiment. When the micro-LED was driven at the constant voltage, it was difficult to distinguish them just by looking at the size of the resistor. However, if the LED was driven in pulse form, it shows a unique signal shape depending on the gas, making it easier to distinguish. After collecting the data, a spectrogram was created through the fast Fourier transform. This spectrogram data contains unique information for each gas and was later used as a training data for the deep learning. In this study, 5 predetermined LED voltages were driven in a random order. Each LED voltage was switched every 2 seconds. When one cycle is completed, another 5 LED voltages are driven in a new sequence. And the average power of the pseudo-random mode was only 0.53 milliwatts. I will explain why I chose the pseudo-random pulse type. In the case of square waves and triangle waves, they only have specific frequency components. Therefore, we cannot be sure that these patterns are the optimal one for classifying the gas. But pseudo-random pulse contains all frequency components similar to a white noise, so there is no need to investigate the most advantageous operating frequency. This video demonstrates the data pre-processing to transform raw sensor signal into a spectrogram. In case of an ethanol gas is shown as an example. Because the LED voltage changes every 2 seconds, the photoactivity of the SMO also changes, and the current value flowing through the SMO changes every moment. After that, the spectrogram was generated through the FFT. In this study, gas tests were conducted on 4 target gases. This slide is a spectrogram created for ethanol and methanol. And this slide is a spectrogram created for acetone and NO2 gas. The spectrogram data and raw sensor signal data were simultaneously fed into the CNN model to train it. And as a result, for 5 target gases, including normal air, classification was made with 97% accuracy, and the concentration was predicted with an error of 32% in real time. Afterwards, the output structure of the CNN model was modified to discriminate the mixed gases. By applying a threshold, if the probability that each gas exists was higher than 0.5, it was determined that the gas exists. On the contrary, if the probability is less than 0.5, it was just that there is no gas. Gas tests were conducted and spectrograms were generated under various mixing ratios of ethanol and methanol gases. As a result, gas mixtures can be selectively distinguished with a single sensor. The accuracy of the confidence score was around 98%, and gas concentration prediction error was around 34%. Lastly, I will summarize my presentation today. The INO systems reported so far used multiple sensors, so the volume and power consumption of the total system were large, and only a monogas situation could be determined. However, using pseudo-random illumination, it was possible to classify mixed gases with just a single sensor. Therefore, we were able to significantly reduce the volume and power consumption of the entire system, as shown in the slide. To summarize this study, the micro-LED gas sensor has the advantage of small size, room temperature operation, and the ultra-low power consumption compared to the heating-based sensors. In the future, it is expected to have high utilization as a mobile gas sensor by combining it with IoT technology. I would like to thank many people who helped me with this research. I would like to thank my advisor, Professor Inkyu, and the members of the MINT lab. And I would like to thank the IEEE Sensors Conference Committee. This is the end of my presentation, and thank you for listening.